Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Snow or Day Sports. We have a very exciting episode for you today. Max, a lot of this has been developing in the last few minutes, and I'm pumped up about it. So,
No, there's a lot of exciting news coming into Minnesota sports recently, and by recently we mean very recently, and I'm very excited for it.
well, should we just hop on in?
Yeah,
Like,
might as
the
well.
commitment of Roman Voss has come out. For those of you that don't know, the 6'4", 225-pound athlete from Jackson County Central down in Jackson, Minnesota. He was narrowed down. He had his final two schools were at the Golden Gophers and the Crimson Tide of Alabama. Many people were saying, Alabama might have the edge just because he was took his official to Alabama this past weekend. It sounded like things went well, but Roman Voss will be a Golden Gopher. That wow, this was as of about 10 minutes ago as well. So.
I mean, huge get, number one player, number one recruit in the state of Minnesota, and I mean, I knew we had a good sign when you look. He's on his official visit to Alabama, and you look, and it's just all Gophers fans wanting him to go there. And I thought we were a little in trouble because they got that recency bias of it. It's like fresh in his mind, commits right afterwards. So it's like, especially being Alabama, you put that in the back of your mind, like, that's not always a great sign. But I'm very pleased that he decided to commit to Minnesota. Got a local legend coming back to the state.
Well, I'm just pumped up. I mean, he's a top 200 recruit in the country. Obviously number one player in the state of Minnesota. I believe the Gophers are the top three players committed to the Gophers right now in the state, which is a very big deal. This is a big time to get. PJ Fleck's always been called from other, especially our rivals as a used car salesman. Well, a used car salesman just got himself a Lamborghini. And not just an old one, too, a pretty nice one. So.
Very probably the crown jewel of going to be his crown jewel of the recruiting class. I can't imagine too many better recruits coming in than him.
Mhm.
He uh he did a great job getting Roman to stay in the state of Minnesota, and I'm glad to see what he returns into in the next few years.
Yeah, and then obviously the next part for Roman or for the Gophers is to keep him committed through signing day. I think it definitely helps with signing day being in December now with the early period. Um, you know, I don't see him as someone that's going to enroll early just because small town kid. He's a big time athlete down there, great basketball player. Uh, I believe he's a track guy. Great at this is great job on the in track and field. Um, uh, I mean, he's someone that you watch his film and you can tell he's pretty raw. He plays quarterback right now, which is pretty typical for a small school. Just putting your best athlete there, and he's going to turn in. I mean, possibly tight. They're saying he's going to be a tight end, possible D end, outside linebacker type of guy. I don't think he has a Big Ten arm, to be completely honest, as a quarterback, but this is a big time get though. Great athlete, super raw. And the big trend with these top recruits that come into the Gophers is are they coachable? Well, from everything I've heard, is Roman is very coachable, and he's going to develop just perfectly fine in Coach Nichols' strength and conditioning system there. And this is a big time get. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, he's definitely raw, like you say, but he has unlimited potential and he will be able to develop here. Probably won't play freshman year, and it will be interesting where they play him if they use him, like you said, as that tight end, or if they move him more to the defensive side of the ball. I could see him being the next Bev Span forward.
Hmm.
Maybe use him a little bit more than they use Ford in the passing game,
Hmm.
but I could see him being an in-state kid and turning into a top flight tight end because he has a good frame to work with. 6'4",
Hmm.
225. Definitely not lightweight. Maybe put on a little bit more weight, but they're going to give him time to do that and like let him be that athlete at Jackson County if he doesn't go and early enroll at the Gophers.
Hmm. Yeah, these are the kids that really, I mean, for my time, I guess paying attention to recruit or paying attention to Gopher recruiting and stuff like that. There's kind of two ways these small school kids go. I mean, Roman, he's a blue chipper, not very common for a small school Minnesota. These small school kids either they're not very coachable type of thing, which we've heard complete opposite. He's very coachable and they don't really develop and they end up transferring after a year or two. Or, small school kids come in and they just haven't had the opportunity to really be coached at a high level. Like he'll get at the University of Minnesota and he takes off and all of a sudden, he's a day one, day two draft pick in the NFL. Hard not to love what you're seeing. I mean, I look at Corey Parrish. I mean, obviously, we saw him as a sophomore in high school in the state tournament against New England Spicer, and we could tell the kid was different as an athlete. And then you see what he did when he got, no offense to Esco, Minnesota, but when he really got coached up at University of Minnesota, had a fantastic freshman season. Um, yeah, just
He's a preseason
these are the
All-American now. Cool.
yeah.
Like he was elite ball hawk last year at safety for the Gophers, and just you saw him progressively get more and more playing time as the season wore on, and instead of now, and then he became a punt returner too.
Mhm.
I don't think Jack Roman is going to be a punt returner for the Gophers. Not quite that type of athlete, but I'm hearing yeah, and he's still going to be a productive player, hopefully, and hopefully turn into a productive player. And then if he gets on the Coy train and that pipeline, I think we're going to get a really good player.
Yeah. Which, speaking of Gopher football recruiting, we've had an eventful couple of days as well. With yesterday, the Gophers received a commitment from a safety out of Texas and Trayshawn Richardson, 3-star. Gophers, the way it sounds, the Gophers kind of got on him early. He went to a TCU camp and walked out of there with a multitude of offers. Gophers were the first one, and he ended up committing to the Gophers out of that TCU camp. So that's a big commit out of Texas. Um, uh, Gophers got a D line commit, or Gophers got a D line commit in Josiah Anesi out of Murrieta. Trying to think where that is here. I believe it's California. A very physical uh, D lineman, big frame, going to develop well for the Gophers. Got another tight end commit in Gabe Weaver, out of Missouri, number one tight end in Missouri. Man, Gophers could run a little double tight end here in a couple of years, and just freaking pound the rock, especially with our new 4-star running back commit. Um, uh, but PJ Fleck, he has a history of wanting to pound the ball, which having with the O-line additions in this class and a couple of really good tight ends, this could be, match made in heaven for Coach Fleck. And we had another Southern California commit. This is the class of 2027, actually. QB, Furian and Furo, or in Ferrero, which significant thing about this, modern day high school, Santa Ana, California. I don't know if anyone, he's going to be a junior this next year. He's competing for a starting job down there. And the way it sounds is he's going to be the guy going into the season. It's like he has the upper edge. Um, uh, he's a big 6'3" guy. Decommit. Gophers got him to decommit from Boston College, actually, committed to the Gophers. And if you guys know anything about modern day high school and the quarterbacks they developed for the last how many years, well, let's just say we're in good company there. I mean, you got with guys with the names of, Mark Sanchez, Matt Barkley, Colt Brennan, Matt Leinart, Bryce Young just a few years ago. This is, getting a big time gunslinger out of Southern California. I'm hearing, his recruitment is just going to continue to rise, but especially, going into his junior season. If the Gophers are able, this still 2 years away yet, but the Gophers have a handle on them early. If they continue to stay on them, this is gonna be a big time commitment and great start for the class 2027.
Yeah, for sure. It's always got to love to get the quarterback recruits. That's probably the most important aspect of your offense is having those quarterback recruits, and you can get these quarterbacks. He really hasn't had much experience. Going to go into his junior year,
Mhm.
maybe his first year starting if he does win that job. And if he does win that job, I assume a lot of other teams. So hopefully, being on him early will help
Mhm.
us throughout that race and keep him through 2027.
Mhm. Well, as we shift back to the class 2026, A couple of my sources here have indicated another small school recruit in the state of Minnesota. I believe is it? I can't remember what he's rated currently in the state of Minnesota. Peters John from Triton High School. He was just on his official over at Penn State this past weekend. 6'4", 185-pound athlete. From what I'm hearing, don't quote me on anything yet because this isn't set in stone or anything. Sounds like the Gophers, or he's getting crystal balls to the Gophers, which that would be another huge commitment. Top 500 player in the country, small school athlete, very raw. They're saying possibly tight end, more or less receiver. And they could see him playing outside linebacker. I believe he plays quarterback at his high school right now. So raw athlete, great basketball player. Was in was in the state tournament this year in track in multiple events. This is that would I mean not set in stone yet, but that would be another huge commitment for the Gophers to get Pierce Peters John. A lot like Roman in a way, big frame. Uh, Probably hasn't had the greatest coach in the world coming from a small high school and down in Dodge Center, which is not a very big town. But if we're able to get him, he'll be able to develop and become a great player.
I could see him fitting much more into a receiver type role versus Roman. He's a little smaller than Roman. Was track MVP at the state tournament, so he's a very good athlete. Has ridiculous basketball numbers. Can pretty much do anything as an athlete. So he would also be another great pickup. I actually have more fear about him going to Penn State than I had Roman going to Alabama. I could see Penn State being on him heavily. Happy Valley,
Hmm.
They actually won some games this playoffs. Actually made it to the playoffs with the expanded. Now, did they beat some of the best teams in the playoff? No, not really, but no, they're still a really good team. Definitely in that upper echelon of the Big Ten. And that would be another great get to have.
Yeah, like I said, not set in stone yet. He was just in Happy Valley this past weekend, like Roman was doing in Tuscaloosa. But for the Gophers to be able to snag him, hopefully they're able to continue that momentum. And Peters John, realizes, hey, Roman's coming here. My turn now, and because from what I understand is Roman and Pierce were on their official together at the University of Minnesota. They were there the same weekend. Sounds like they're pretty good friends. Not too far away from each other, about just over an hour from each other. That'd be a little
I'm,
southern Minnesota connection there would be awesome.
no, for sure. They would, yeah, hopefully they can get each other to go there and have that relationship. One follows the other, and that probably does help. You can focus more attention on Peterson and have him have more resources towards him, and hopefully they can get a good deal worked out so he can also be wear the maroon and gold.
Mm. Well, one thing I've also noticed in the past few years, especially this year as well, is PJ Fleck will talk. He talks about it every year at the signing day press conference, and about how well the current recruits recruit all their players to the University of Minnesota, which that really speaks about the culture that Coach Fleck has built there. You know, from what I've heard, is a million. Howie Johnson, uh, apparently he reached out to Roman Voss multiple times during Roman's recruiting process to get him committed to the University of Minnesota. Howie, obviously four-star DN out of Forest Lake, f committed to the Gophers right now in the class 26, and he's a big commitment, and so Gophers, building something special right now. I
Oh,
don't.
absolutely. I mean, the thing with Peterson that might help us out is hopefully we can get a little NIL money from McNeelius headed
Hmm.
his way to maybe get into that maroon and gold. Very deep pockets there, so hopefully maybe we could get some of that towards not maybe even the Dinkytown Collective.
Hmm.
Just curious. I mean, I wouldn't be too picky.
Yeah, one thing I've really been impressed with too as well with the Dinkytown Collective is how they've expanded as well over the last, since it was really created, like we saw Coy Parrish throw out the first pitch the other night at the Twins game, in part because of the Dinkytown sports, and And Gophers have really stepped it up a notch in the NIL. I personally didn't think the Gophers would be able to do that much in NIL, but it's been awesome to see. Um, Drake Lindsay and on multitude of Gophers I know. Matt Kingsbury, I've actually partied with him a few times, but those a group of those guys were just over in Otter Tail Lake. Uh, a couple of big donors to the Gophers put them up in a cabin, got them on some fish this past weekend, got them playing golf, and it sounds like, and those are the things you don't think of when you're committing to a school is what's the state, what's, the surrounding area like? Well, Minnesota is 99% Gophers. Outstate, it's, you know, that's just how it is. Minnesota supports the Gophers. That's not something a lot of people think about. You come up here to where I am here in central Minnesota, and you drive around Gull Lake, which I work on, and you see Gopher flags up, and the support is real.
Oh, absolutely. And it's important to have that fan base, especially for guys like the in-state guys to see that and like even guys that play for the Gophers to have that and like have that fan base around. And that's super important.
Mhm. I expect it to maybe tone down, in the next few weeks here. The recruiting cycle for the class 26 was, Gophers always hit it pretty hard early. But, as we get more into later in the summer, the middle of summer here, the coaches will be focused on getting ready for fall camp. A lot of, these high schoolers are getting ready for to start their senior season, so they might tone down a little bit. We could expect, maybe after Pierre's down, maybe another commit or two or three, but it's going to tone down a little bit here, as these coaches and players get ready for their senior seasons. But definitely a great start heading into the season. Everybody's expecting Drake Lindsay to take over the reins from Max Brosmer this coming season. Darius Taylor. I mean, he's a fantastic ball player. And Corey Parrish, we talked about him, great ball player. You know, lot Gophers are, this is kind of weird to say, there's not a lot of outside excitement about the Gophers, I mean, I guess there never really is, but the Gophers are quietly coming in and they're gonna, they might be underdogs in a few games, but they're gonna surprise a lot of people, I think, this year, and so I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. It's there is quite a bit of talent on this team. It'll be interesting if they can reach it fully and if Darius Taylor needs to have 1,000 carries this year or not. We'll see.
Yeah, and I'm definitely hoping not, because we saw what happened with Mohammed Ibrahim when he was getting the ball 50 times a game. So no disrespect to Mo, great ball player, just
Human body can't handle that many carries.
right.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if they can have a little bit more balance than they have had in years past.
Mm. But the Gophers also did bring in a transfer running back from Marshall, explosive back. Almost reminds me a lot of Mo Ibrahim. Doesn't have breakaway speed, but is really shifty between the tackles, takes contact well. I believe he was all conference and All American last year. So that may be a good 1-2 punch like we had last year with DT and Marcus Major. So
Yeah, it'll be interesting to have like PJ wants to have that good running game. Still having Darius Taylor back, they can have a little bit of depth too, because that's just so killer too. To
mm,
have depth in that backfield, wear you down, and have someone fresh come in and break off a couple runs to just wear you down even more.
mhm. Yeah, and I will say, Darius Taylor is not like the prototypical Gopher running back. Uh, he's a lot more versatile than I think a lot of people think. He's a very good pass catcher. You can line him up out wide, and he's very smooth with his routes. And not your prototypical Gopher running back. When I think of Gopher running backs, I always think of guys like Rodney Smith, Shannon Brooks, and Mohammed Ibrahim that would are just going to pound you. And we look at that 2019 Gopher team, and we had all three of those guys in that team. And every game was really, all right, which one's going to take over this game? And that was a very special year because we had three, I mean, legit RB1s. And, I don't think we're going to have that again, for some time, just because the way things kind of worked out with med reds that year. I mean, it was weird because, we had two fifth-year guys in Brooks and Smith that year. and Tanner Morgan, who obviously had a fantastic year, especially with and Tyler Johnson and Rashad Bateman out wide.
And that was pre-COVID years,
Yeah, that
or
was
before everybody was a fifth year, fifth, sixth year.
yeah, that was a unique season, and yeah, we had three legit RB1s that year, and that just proved, the depth you can have, especially at the running back position in the Big Ten. Yeah, it's going to be a difference maker. So,
Yeah, we'll talk about Gopher football more when they get closer to those games.
mm.